Yo, how is everyone doing? It's the one and only, and I'm back possibly for the last time until Apple's huge September event, largely due to the fact that I will be in the Caribbean for a small vacation. But looks like it's gonna be me versus Tropical Storm Dorian. So comment below who you think is gonna win. Anyway, today I have a really exciting video for y'all. Today I'm bringing you the ultimate Samsung Galaxy Note 10 battery test, pitting up the newly released Samsung Galaxy Note 10 versus the gargantuan Samsung Galaxy Note 10 Plus. This is going to be an interesting one. Some might say that obviously the Note 10 Plus will win. It has a bigger battery, but you'd be mistaken there, as you also have to consider the Note 10 Plus has a better Quad HD Plus mode, which pumps out a crisper screen resolution than that of the Note 10. So having a better screen resolution and having more screen real estate means that the screen now has to work overdrive to pump out that gorgeous display and all those pixels. So whatever you're doing, stop right now and comment down below who has your vote. Do you think the regular Note 10 will win, or do you think the Note 10 Plus will still come out on top? This is going to be a good one, and the finishing results will be sure to surprise you. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, this time on God, the intro will be fast, mainly because there are just two contestants today, and the specs are very similar between the two devices, with just three main factors that could affect the battery test in big ways. For one, obviously the screen sizes. The Note 10 Plus has a bigger display, meaning it has to pump out more pixels, but thankfully, as a consequence of a bigger screen, means a bigger chassis, which in turn means more space for a bigger battery, so it should wash itself out in a way. Second thing to consider is that the Note 10 Plus has 12 gigabytes of onboard memory or RAM, while the Note 10 only has 8 gigabytes. Now 8 gigabytes is nothing to laugh at and is mighty powerful, but what this means is that the Note 10 Plus may have an easier time handling multiple applications better than the regular Note 10, which could mean the Note 10 Plus could edge out slightly in terms of battery, since the extra RAM is basically like extra horsepower in a car except on your phone. And lastly, the Note 10 Plus has a setting in which your screen resolution can get extremely sharp and crisp, dubbed Quad HD Plus, versus the Full HD Plus resolution on the standard Note 10, and features a pixel density of 498 and 401 ppi respectively. Now that we discussed that, we can get started. As with all my battery tests, the aim is to mimic real-world performance as close as we can, setting up both phones through a variety of different tasks and tests. Of course, there has to be consistency between the two phones so that it is a fair matchup. Both phones have the same brightness setting, with auto brightness turned off so that the screen remains at the same brightness. Blue light reduction was turned off. I also used this handy application called Stay Alive, which prevented the Note 10's screens from turning off, since they don't have an indefinite setting and do time out after 10 minutes. Both charge up to 100% before we started, both on the same Wi-Fi network, and both on the same operating system, just to name a few settings. Because these are OLED displays, it's also important to keep the wallpaper, as different wallpapers may negatively impact battery on one and not the other. Say for example, one wallpaper has a lot of whites and brighter colors versus a darker wallpaper with more blacks. The first test we did was a Netflix test, since almost every night I put on some Netflix, light up one of my scented candles, and slowly drift to bed. It's so relaxing, dude, I swear. I recently got into this show called Dark Tourist, since I like traveling and seeing the darker, scarier side to traveling. I let both phones play for a total of 120 minutes, and after that was complete, I recorded the percentages. We have the mighty Note 10 still sitting at a very cool 82%, but the S10 Plus edges out early with 84%. Not a huge difference, and still pretty good for having that screen on for a whole 2 hours. Up next is what I rarely do, and you might do the same, but the next thing is to leave the phones on standby, aka not have the screen on. Now for my tech noobs out there, pressing the sleep wake switch does not mean your phone is not consuming battery. Of course it is. It has to be on go, ready to anticipate phone calls, receive notifications, and run any apps in the background. I was extremely shocked, as after letting both phones sit idle with the screen off on standby for a whole hour, each phone only dropped a single percentage, bringing down the Note 10 to 81% and the Note Plus to 83%. This is quite remarkable, as for some reason, it doesn't happen always, but have you ever put your phone in your pocket for 30 minutes and your battery just went from 95% to 88%? Like, it makes no sense, but wow, this leads me to believe these phones could be on standby for several days on end. That was the only break these phones got, as we keep on going and now head over to our camera app and shoot some video. A lot of us use Snapchat, a lot of us post on our Instagram stories, and throughout the day take the occasional picture or video, and that is precisely what this test aims to replicate. What I did is record on the same setting on both phones for a whole 30 minutes continuously. It's not that interesting of a video, as it just features the chin of my iMac, but nevertheless, here are the results after 30 minutes. They drained much more than I had anticipated. Note 10 slips 11%, bringing it down to 69%, while the Note 10 Plus slipped only 9%, bringing down its battery to a healthy 74%. So now the gap is widening, but will this result hold up? We keep moving, and our next test, I'm testing out how using the S Pen will affect the battery life. Reason is, when using my iPad Pro 12.9 or even the 11-inch, I notice using the Apple Pencil drastically reduces the battery. In a 2-hour note-taking session, it's common for my iPad to drop a whole 50%, and the iPad itself gets really hot. While I don't want to film me using the S Pen on a dramatically smaller screen for 4 hours, instead, I drew continuously on each for 7 minutes each. Why 7 minutes? Well, for one, because I was hungry and wanted to go eat, and two, my back was essentially broken because I don't stretch at the gym, and I essentially probably had a muscle spasm as hunching over hurt, so I literally give my all for you guys, just an FYI. Even using the S Pen for a short period of time kind of supported my hypothesis that using styli on phones or tablets has an enormous detriment on battery. So after doing 7 minutes on the Note 10 while leaving the Note 10 Plus chillin', and then doing the opposite on the other, 7 minutes on the Note 10 Plus and the regular Note 10 chillin', I arrived at the following numbers. The Note 10 drops 3 percentage points, bringing it down to 66%, and the Note 10 Plus followed suit, dropping to 71%. Up next, I tested a really nifty feature that the iPhone should already have, but they are rumored to feature here in the next iteration of the iPhone. I'm talking about wireless power share. With these massive phones with huge batteries, you guys should know sharing is caring. Spread the love. Your homie needs to text his sides, man. Come on, don't be like that. He's on 2%. Give him that juice, or else he's gonna lose all his sides. PowerShare is cool because any Qi-enabled devices can use this feature. It isn't locked into just Samsung hardware. So what I did is tested 2 devices with drastically different battery sizes. I first did 10 minutes on each phone using my AirPods, as it was time for them to charge up anyway, and then did the same thing, only instead of AirPods, I put my iPhone to charge. Initially, after 10 minutes with the AirPods, the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus had battery percentages of 63% and 68% respectively, but saw much bigger drops after placing the iPhone for the same period of time, presumably because of the much bigger battery in the iPhone. After 10 minutes with the iPhone, the Note 10 was at 52%, while the Note 10 Plus is at 59%. At this point, we're about 4.5 hours in, and both are still above half capacity, which isn't too bad at all. So upon reaching close to the halfway point, I decided to kick it up a notch and did one of my favorite things in the world: waste the majority of my time and focus on YouTube. Yes sir. Listen, I'm on YouTube a lot, as I know most of you guys do, and if you're watching this video, guess what? You're on YouTube watching this video, so shout out for that. But anyway, instead of the fireplace video, I decided to switch it up and showcase this beautiful ASMR video of a river just flowing downstream, and let me tell you, it's very relaxing. I let them sit for a little over 2 hours as I got a quick bite and also hit the weights and came back a little later than anticipated. But after a little over 2 hours, our Note 10 drops to still a very impressive 39%, while the Note 10 Plus, not that far behind, only 6 percentage points away at 45%. I think this is a good time to mention that Samsung knows what they're doing in terms of battery life and wish Apple followed suit. To be this deep into our test and to have our Note 10 Plus essentially at a little over less than half is flabbergasting, and really shows how far Samsung goes in terms of battery preservation for our everyday lives, especially people like me who depend on their phone for just about everything. Literally, I'm on my phone a lot and appreciate a good battery life. Up next, millennials' favorite thing in the world to do: roam endlessly and shamelessly for hours on their favorite social media platform. I must say, my favorite is tied for YouTube and Instagram, but hey, your favorite might be WhatsApp or Snapchat or Twitter. Whatever the case, I set both phones on Twitter for an hour, and after 60 minutes on Twitter, we have 28% for the Note 10 and 35% for the Note 10 Plus. Now, I know what you're saying. 1 hour on social media? Nah, I must spend about half the day on social media. And to those people I say, you right. So I took the privilege of logging onto my Instagram and leave that on my page sitting for another hour, which this is a perfect time to shamelessly promote my social media. If you want to stay up to date on the latest tech news and updates about the channel, participate in polls so you can vote for the next video topic, or simply want to get to know me a little better, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'll throw my @handles on the screen right now. Okay, that's enough. After another hour on social media, we see that our Note 10 dropped to 19%. Finally dropping under a fifth of battery, while the mighty Note 10 Plus is at 26%. You know, they're not that far behind actually, despite the Note 10 Plus having that Quad HD Plus setting. We are finally nearing the end. You guys give it up for both the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus, both of which are doing a phenomenal job out here. For this test, we tap into the processing power and really test their limits by running 3 Geekbench tests to test their raw performances and to see what kind of score we get. What happens while doing these tests is that the processor is kicked into overdrive, and doing so 3 times does put a strain on the battery, as is evident here, since after 3 runs, both the Note 10 and the Note 10 Plus both dropped 3%, so bringing down the Note 10 down to 15% and the Note 10 Plus down to 23%. How much longer are these phones going to last? At this point, it was late in the night, and I was just wondering how in the world the Note 10 Plus still manages to have basically a quarter battery left. But anyway, next we put the phones to run Temple Run on a continuous loop, and what helped a lot here is the app Stay Alive, which prevented the Note screens from shutting down, since their Samsung phones don't have an indefinite setting for screen timeouts like the iPhones do, which I wish they had. But what happened is, to prevent any OLED screen burn in, I suppose, the game itself starts to dim after a certain period of inactivity, but I tried my best to wake it up so it can continue on, but rest assured, the game kept looping in the background, albeit with a dimmer screen. I was 100% sure this was going to do it to them, and I was finally going to be able to sleep, but nah. Man, these phones are possessed or something, because after about an hour, the Note 10 is still at 7% holding on to dear life, and the Note 10 Plus is now at 15%. Incredible. To put an end to this madness, I had them all back on the YouTube River video to drain them out completely. You'll notice the Note 10, before it officially died, dimmed almost to like 1% brightness. I suppose this is a power save feature to be able to squeeze out as much life as possible, because if you look very carefully, you can see the display is still on, but just barely. It wasn't until 11 hours and 4 minutes that the Note 10 finally tapped out, leaving the Note 10 Plus as the winner for this battery drain test. But it was late in the night here, maybe 4 AM, and I'm still watching this phone, and finally, after more than half a day, more than 12 hours, ladies and gentlemen, the reigning, defending, undisputed king of Samsung Galaxy Note 10 battery drain test, the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, finally calls it quits at a whopping 12 hours and 1 minute. This is insane, way too much madness. So what have we learned today? I learned something important today, that Samsung makes some amazing phones with spectacular battery. Now, of course, everyone's use case is going to differ from one another, and given the fact that these batteries are as fresh as they can be, it's no wonder they lasted so long. But it still paints a pretty vivid picture at the capacity these batteries have. More than 12 hours? Are you kidding me? This must mean that for not so heavy users, the Note 10 Plus will likely last you onto the next day with very few issues, if not maybe even the third day before charging. These two phones are both monsters and battery champs, so if you're looking for a phone with tremendous battery, here you go. These two are your guys. Of course, as I mentioned, I attempt to make these tests as fair as possible, keeping as much as I can constant while also trying my best to replicate real world use. But again, your smartphone needs may differ, but either way, I hope this video helped you in realizing how capable these phones really are. Guys, these kinds of videos take forever to produce, but they're so fun to make, so if you appreciate the 12 hours of filming that went behind this, the hours of setup, and even more hours of editing, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and do not forget to hit that notification bell and smash the like button, as it helps me out tremendously. More great content like this is soon to come, and as many of you may know, the Apple event is just around the corner, so stay tuned for all your tech needs and updates. As always, I appreciate every single one of you, and I can't wait to catch you all in the next one. Peace out, guys.